Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody. 12 o'clock on the East Coast, so we'll just give a little bit of time for everybody else to join. Thank you very much to everybody that's here today. Really awesome and excited to have you all on. And we're going to have a good half-hour session about talking about Pulse and how it helps you as a retailer. I know I'm certainly excited. The teams are very excited. We'll go over a little bit of some background on Pulse. We'll talk a little bit about one of our favorite things, which is store outages and how an outage kind of shapes. We'll go really deep diving today into the estate management compliance functions of Pulse, which is just a very small part of what Pulse does. And then we'll see a demo of the system, so we see it working live and how easy it is to get in, to click around, find out information about your estate, all in real time. And then we'll have at the end a little Q&A. So I know the teams here are certainly excited. A lot of excitement from Red Iron. Again, thanks to all our partners, our internal teams, our customers. Thank you to everybody for joining. And let's get started. So welcome everybody today to our session on Pulse. This is episode 1, estate management and compliance. Really exciting solution that Red Iron has brought to market. And we're going to dive in just a second. I'm going to do a little intro on me, a little intro on Red Iron, and then we'll move in. I'll probably shape an outage for us a little bit. That's like an important thing. I think that we all live and breathe, hopefully not too frequently, but a couple times a year. And when they happen, they're not really fun. I'm Mike Wilson. I'm the Chief Retail Officer at Red Iron. I have a tenure running brick and mortar stores and technology operations, even going back deeper in my career, a long tenure of working in the engineering function of a Fortune 100 company. And I'm at Red Iron. Red Iron's a very exciting place for brick and mortar retailers. Long heritage at Red Iron, 26 years in the brick and mortar space, serving brick and mortar retailers, really all about brick and mortar since its inception. Implementations that are living, on over 300,000 registers out there. And these are lanes of battle-tested, retail-hardened software that help make life easier for stores, whether it's our broker solution, which we're not talking about today, but that's a lightweight integration for your stores, or really Pulse, which is the next generation of observability, and it's purpose-built for retail. You can email over some questions or use our chat over to info@redirontech.com. And even if you want more info, I think we're going to have something at the end, which is a bit of a calendar where you can book some appointments, where we can do maybe some more one-on-one, which would be really great. I'd love to hear from everybody out there with more questions. This is episode 1 in a longer series. I think we've teed up around 8 sessions that are going to talk about all the functions of Pulse. And, really as we kind of dive into estate management compliance here, kind of the governance solution, let's just talk opening about why every second counts for retailers at checkout and all of us that have, kind of lived it. There's a day-to-day reality that we have out there, which is, Pulse can help fix. But when we start to think about how do we shape understanding of an outage, all of us have been through it. It's a one store, is it many? Is it a regional outage? Is it global? Is it just one register? How many stores are affected? How many people are in the queue talking to us? Go ahead, open up a P1. Let's get on the bridge. And I always had this kind of thing where it was like, well, it's got to be the database or it's got to be the network. It's only can be one of those two things, or somebody made a change and didn't tell us. And, while this whole thing's going on, you're opening a Sev1 with your providers. You're starting to get logs back, and you'll see how easy that is with Pulse. And you're reading the logs. You're doing correlation. You're trying to understand who made a change. Was it us? Was it our provider? What pieces of critical infrastructure are in between our customer and our checkout process? Is it something to do with our loyalty provider? Does it have to do with our payment services provider? And all this time you're kind of waiting. And, MTTR, or mean time to resolution, is critical when you have lanes queuing, frustrated customers, abandoned carts, lost sales, people walking out of the store, very frustrated. And throughout the whole process, you're trying to understand what changes did we make? What was the last time this thing was touched? And you're trying to go through all of this while you know that you're burning and losing money. So you have frustrated tech teams that are trying to get people hold the people, frustrated customers, frustrated associates, and then it's kind of like, how long are we together in this outage bridge to understand really what's happening? And that's kind of the reality and the problem. The solution to that is Pulse. It gives real-time observability into your lanes, and there's very fancy tools out there that help to do this for digital. You have your Sumo Logics of the world, New Relics. You may be doing some level of log aggregation right now and pulling it back, but to really get in to understand what's happening within clicks and having that observability is key, and that's what Pulse provides. It's really one platform for everything that's going on within your store. And it's not just what's happening on the register. It's not just specific view into what's happening at your POS. It's pin pads, scanners. If you're more large, like a club store, you may have rollers attached. You may have scales attached to your registers. Pulse kind of synthesizes and puts all those things together so that you can see them all in one place. And like I said before, we have many capabilities within Pulse. You could see them all here in the hexagons, and it goes into predictive diagnostics, or actually our next session, we're going to talk about observations and real-time monitoring. But today we're going to focus very deeply on estate management and compliance. And, we'll have, once everything's said and done, we'll probably have about 20 minutes of engaged content around estate management. Estate management itself is certainly much bigger than 20 minutes worth of content. So when we start to think about how does estate management help us, there's all these complexities of the distributed estate, and you may have HP registers from one generation running, and you may have Ingenico pin pads, you may have Verifone terminals, you may have Motorola or Zebra scanners and printers, or you may have Epsons. There's a whole universe of things you could have out there that Pulse can monitor and instrument for you that help to make it easier to transact. And at the end of the day, what we're doing here, like I said before, cutting that mean time to resolution and helping with store level profitability, which is what everybody wants. Everybody wants, those great experiences, customers to come back. If your average customer shows up 2 times a year, this is about getting them back 4 and 5 times a year because they continue to have great, experiences. The estate compliance. So there's a whole compliance angle of this, which is like you get a request from audit and they want to know, how do I know which serial numbers of pin pads are hooked up to which register? And, that may come up once a year. It may come up once every other year. It may come up 3 times a year. Really depends on a whole bunch of things. Could be tied to your cyber policy, your liability insurance. So knowing the software versions and configurations are huge when you sit, in a store leadership and a store technology role. OS version compliance. You may be on a version of Linux and you may be upgrading to a .11 from a .10, and that's a big leg of work for store tech teams. How do you know that you think it should be in 200 stores, but it's only in 198, and why is it not there? Pulse shows you that, and we're going to see a little bit of the dashboarding a little later on. You ship a register from a depot, or an associate, knows a peak time's coming, so they power on a register that hasn't been powered on in 2 months, and you have data drift and configuration drift. You have a pin pad that's performing slowly. So that might not be a big deal if you don't have a peak business day on a Thursday, but Saturday is a big day, and we have a big plan associated with Saturday. And, this pin pad that's responding in 500 milliseconds is going to be way too long, and we're going to have associates that have to move from one register to another to complete a transaction. And now there's lines, and now there's frustrated customers. Or, the worst thing, at least, when I lived this, was, somebody's dipping their card and it's not taking the transaction. And it just says transaction failed. And you're like, well, why? And now people are going into their wallet or their purse and taking out another card and trying again, or, oh, we'll move to cash, but I don't have enough cash on me, so I have to now take my basket size down, and that's impacting your store KPIs. So it's really all of these things that you're going to see Pulse can help you with to identify quickly and in one concise way. And you don't have to go out to a vendor portal, and you don't have to go out to a pin pad portal, or your loyalty status dashboard, or your payment service provider's status dashboard. All of this happens in one place, and it's with the insights and the smart way that we've built Pulse to do delta, log deltas instead of having to do all this aggregation, log retrieval, open up a P1 ticket with your providers, getting everybody on a bridge. It's all those things that are kind of retail, brick and mortar retail deserves these digital tool sets that, are so fancy that come with a lot of the websites. We owe that to brick and mortar, to changing this observability from like a reactive chore to really a proactive style of management, and helping our tech teams and helping our associates deliver end value to our customer and raise our profitability, which is always the goal of any retailer. We're going to go into the demo here. So I have Dale on. Dale's from our product team. He's going to take us through one-click visibility and how easy it is to see things within the Pulse landscape, how effortless it is to see reporting and run filters within your existing tools that you have, and also tracking what matters most. So not just a canned set of metrics. These are some pre-built observations that you get when you get Pulse that leverages Red Iron's experience and knowing, some of these things that are very important. We probably won't get too much into corrupt caches today, but data drift, configuration drift, seeing all those things all in one place. So we're going to turn it over to Dale now, and I'll probably pop in as Dale kind of demos, because there's certain things that he does that, kind of give me, spark ideas and spark, real world situations in my mind. So Dale, take it away and go ahead. Let's see what Pulse has to offer for us here.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Hi, guys. I'm Dale. This is Pulse right here. We have a little menu board over here that has got different capabilities. And what we're going to take a look at here is what we call our nodes, which are our registers. Now, Pulse has, I'm showing you a server-side portal. Pulse has a client. And in this case, we have the client installed in probably about a little under 5,700 registers. And these clients have been configured in what we want to take a look at, collect different properties or values of elements that are on the register. And these are all fully configurable. We've built up some configurations here just to kind of show what kind of information we can get. If I click on any one of these registers right here, I can see the different types of values that we're getting. And in this version, relative to compliance, what we want to target are things that tell us what's running there. In this particular register, the EFT provider is a provider called Oris, and we are able to pick up the different values of Oris, the PinPad version, the Oris version. We can take a look at other elements that we're picking up. We've got the serial number here. The POS application running on this register is Fluid, third-party POS vendor. We can pick up the build version.
Yeah, I think that's just that's an important part to talk about, right? The Pulse solution is totally agnostic to whether it's peripherals, whether it's EFT providers, whether it's your PinPad versions, whether it's your register hardware or software. We kind of interrogate and pull back logs on almost anything. And that's the really important part, especially when I think about some of the large retailers or maybe even small retailers that have distributed estates. So you have different types of, every lane is different. And, you think about big boxes and you may have departments. So one department runs it differently from another department. Pulse shows you all that in one place. You don't need, some provider specific tool to interrogate all of your different lane setups. And that's the other thing too, Dale, is this isn't just about a hardware register or register software configuration. This is about everything that sits in that lane that makes a transaction successful or not successful. So when you think about versions of software that run on our pin pads, you think about versions, different versions of OS, like we talked about before, different patch versions. When we look at the dashboard later, you might see hey, I have 150 registers that have a different version of software than the balance of the chain. Well, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be, because we're in the middle of a pilot, or we're in the middle of a rollout, or we're trying to understand. Maybe we're doing some A/B testing in our stores to see if moving a button around on the checkout might help the checkout happen faster. So seeing all that in one place and surfacing up that data to you through one pane is really what Pulse excels at. So
Yeah.
go ahead, keep
Yeah.
going down. I'll
So
probably keep
yeah.
popping in because there's a lot of these
Okay.
things that resonate with me. But even I look at the disk usage or the memory usage. That's huge, right? Like you might want to baseline that against a non-peak versus a peak. And hey, maybe it's time in some of our most profitable stores to either do memory upgrades or register upgrades. And you can use all this to help shape your future inside peaks and outside of peaks.
Yeah. Yeah, in that scenario, so we're able to take a look at some application specific information that's on the register, some operating system information that's on the register. We've also got some visibility into what peripherals are attached here. And the idea here is we want to target things that are going to help us understand what is actually running on that whole register as a nice little ecosystem, because all of these elements must work and play in conjunction with each other in order to have a successful, cashier-oriented interaction with the customer and things like that. Now, these are quite a few elements that we're just pulling. And again, these are all configurable elements that we can target, whether you're running, whatever kind of POS application, whatever kind of EFT solution you've got running, whatever kind of loyalty solution you've got running. If you've got, other applications you want to monitor, antivirus, or maybe you have a third-party application that you built that you want to run locally or for timekeeping or whatnot. And with all of that said, that's quite a bit of information that we get just in understanding what is on each of these registers. And that really is the start of being standardized and the ground foundation of compliant. You know what is running on each one of these registers. You may have an internal compliance or basically saying, hey, we should be at this level of operating system or whatnot. You now know. If you've got third-party auditors or whatnot who are asking you about what you are running, you can see what all of that information is at a register level.
So
Now,
Dale,
the other thing,
looking at time. So let's maybe take a quick look at how effortless it is to get the reporting out of here and how you can kind of shape your own analysis and data
okay,
with the Pulse data. Just looking at time, it's 12:17,
yeah,
so we're a bit
I'm
past the
just
halfway mark.
going to do a quick boo. All of that information we consolidate into a centralized dashboard where we can see across the entire state, and we can specifically choose what things are of interest. So in this example right here, I want to really track what my POS version is, what my operating system version is, what my pin pad version is. And if I see any variances, they're going to show up right here. I can see here I'm running two different versions of operating system. I can see over here in my fluid POS, I've got the vast majority running here, and I've got, just a few that are running something different. And I can see that I'm actually piloting some new software. So that gives me a very holistic view overall in terms of seeing that from a dashboard perspective. And the other option I have is I can actually export this data here, and I can select one or more nodes that I want. And I've got different formats that I can export to: JSON, CSV, XLS. And what I got here is just an export of some of the previous information I was showing you and how it shows up in this case, spreadsheet. And I can use Excel's
And that talks a
capabilities
little
to do.
bit, right, Dale, about the interoperability. So whether you have other systems, it's maybe ticket management system, or you want to do some external analysis on this data, you can dump it in JSON, you can dump it in CSV, you can dump it into an Excel file, pivot, take a look, and really start understanding that cache lane level data, which is so important. Before I talked about the example of wanting to know what your serial numbers are. And I know for me in my past, that was always, a daunting task. Yeah, we probably had some scripts ready, which always needed tweaking, and, you had to run it, and which registers did it run on, which didn't it? How do we prove that this, serial number is attached to this register number? This is all now done automatically within Pulse, and you could pull it, tell your auditors, hey, why don't you ask me every day? I could pull that for you very easily every day now without the complexities of a lot of third-party tools and custom scripting.
Yeah, and being able to export in this manner allows you to send it to them, right? So you can say, hey, here's your list right here. We do have all the visibility in the dashboard and whatnot, but also have the capability to then take that information and you can pass it out to whatever auditor you want or whatever, whoever is asking, right? And it's no
not just
fuss.
fixed lane PEDs either, right? This could be if you have mobile PEDs, if you have IP-based PEDs, if you have Bluetooth-based PEDs, fixed lanes that are plugged in through powered USB. Any type of PED that you have can be monitored and instrumented on using Pulse.
Yeah, we're getting that information in this case right through Oris, and Oris can run IP PEDs. It can run whatever kind of PED it wants, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, Mike, and let you share again and continue.
Okay. Let me just share again. Okay. So we saw one-click visibility. We saw the effortless reporting. We saw talking about what matters most to you. And, like I said before, it's really about, hey, we have all these great ideas on things that we should monitor based upon our experience. But you as the retailer know your business the best. And you may want to know more about what's happening at the pin pad, or you may want to know more about what's happening with a Bluetooth scanner, an IP-based scanner, or even a fixed lane, a hardwired scanner. Or you may want to know more about your hard drives. How are they performing? Are they degrading? Do you have memory issues in some of the stores? Or you may want to know, hey, this is something we've kind of been chasing around with our provider from a point of sale standpoint. How many times is it happening? There's a perfect example that came up, either last week or the week before that was like, oh, I have all these null pointers in my environment. Are they impacting friction? Are they causing friction at the checkout? Are they causing people to walk out of our stores with, abandoned baskets, or are they causing folks to, kind of spend less within our stores? Conversion impacted, and all the real, store level KPIs. How are they impacted by what we're giving our customers from a checkout point of view? So I'm going to share a bit of a. Go ahead, Dale. Did you have something?
I was going to say that's a very, very nice lead into our to our next webinar on real-time observations.
A lot of fun with that, right? That we can have. So let
Yep.
me just get back in. I'm going to give a bit of a different view because I think we had some questions come in here. So just a couple housekeeping items before. Please be interactive within the chat. We have a way for you folks to book time to learn more about Pulse. You can email info@redirontech.com. Please feel free to use the links in the chat and reach out with any questions. I would personally love to hear from everybody. And give you more info and show how this would work within your estate. So question one, if I'm walking into a board or leadership meeting, what's the one metric Pulse would help me improve? So really good question, and thank you for the question. I would say if you track anything relative to customer satisfaction, if it's NPS or SCA or CSAT, really any store experience metric, Pulse is going to help improve that. So by increasing the number of registers that are capable of completing transactions at any moment, really Pulse then becomes a new KPI for operational excellence in your brick and mortar stores, which drives up customer satisfaction, which drives up their basket size, which drives up return trips from the customer, thus driving store level profitability and your overall company profitability. Another question here, just looking, we still have a couple minutes, so I will take some more. We already have monitoring through our MSP. How does this differ? So, that's an important question. Pulse really focuses on the retail edge. And like we kind of said, it's not just like, kind of a phrase that we've come up with. Pulse is purpose built for retail. And that's the thing. We understand retail. We have a lot of folks with a lot of tenure here that have been in retail for a really long time that know exactly what you want. And some of these other monitoring tools out there and MSPs, they probably are very good at aggregating logs and collecting data, but the real-time event correlation, the understanding that you're going to have multiple distributed estates, some retailers, depending upon the size, might have 3 or 4 different kinds of POSs or flavors or versions, or you may be in the middle of a change from a pin pad provider, so you might have running one type of pin pad in one store and a different one in another. I don't. Every retailer, isn't always blessed with having the exact same estate across their, full chain. So traditional MSPs would look at, servers or endpoints, generic kind of health, which is valuable, but it's not as valuable as Pulse that's monitoring transactions, devices, the experience for your customer, and the tools that are really unique to retailers that associates use every day. And at the end of the day, you'd rather have your associates servicing customers, doing consultative selling, cross-sell, upsell, all the things that we want our associates to do versus unplugging a register, plugging back in, being in the queue with the help desk, having a phone call, having to write down ticket-based data or information. So that's really, how Pulse would differ from an MSP.
I think there's another thing I want to throw in too, Mike, in that scenario, not only do we monitor all of that kind of stuff, but the ability to take that information and share it with the third-party providers super easily relative to having a consolidated view of any particular given issue, not only with that software provider, but all of the other elements that impact that, like your operating system and version and all of that kind of stuff. And that's super easy to do. That may not be as easy to do relative to the MSP support.
Appreciate that, Dale. Another question here. Our biggest pain point is downtime that we don't even know about until the store calls. Can Pulse help prevent that? Very good question. Thank you for submitting that. The answer there is certainly, and kind of one of the things I had started off with was Pulse detecting anomalies at the entire lane level, not just POS hardware, not just POS software, because any one of those things in the chain of a transaction is important. You may have, when you dip a card in a pin pad, maybe 2-3 hops that you have to get through before you get to your authorization and settlement and response. And Pulse is able to detect all that at the retail edge. So just thinking about a use case where we have a bunch of declines and we starting to see these declines, and maybe it's just on the East Coast of the country. And now we know that on the East Coast, all these stores and registers point to this one gateway that's located outside Washington, D.C. to get out to our PSP. And now when we get on the phone with the PSP, one of the first questions you're always going to get asked from a provider is, well, how do we know the issue is not on your side? And how long is it taking for the transaction or the call to get to us for them to then make the decision to go start to look at it? And how many of your stores are affected? How many folks have called in about this? Pulse monitors that retail edge for you and gives you that visibility. And it can tell you, oh, maybe you have an F5 that sits in between your stores and your providers. Let's make sure the transactions are hitting, that edge that fast. And then monitoring post that edge before it leaves your environment, goes to the provider and comes back. So yeah, a long answer to the really good question of, how can we prevent downtime that we don't know about until the store calls. And you can be in this dashboard live in real time and find out all this information. And the hope is, hey, hopefully you find out a trend or you find out something before the store has to call in and you adjust and make real time, reactions to that. Just quick looking at the time. I think maybe I have time for one more question. We have over 5,000 registers. How scalable is this solution? So that's an important thing. I think I mentioned before, we have a heritage at Red Iron and being over 300,000 lanes. That's a lot of battle-tested retail experience. If you think about the experience that we're harnessing from over 300,000 lanes of knowing retail day in and day out, Pulse was engineered to be distributed for multi-estate environments and multi-platform retail. Like I talked about, you might not have all the same thing, and that's fine. Pulse is ready for that. And the reality is, whether it's 50 or 50,000 or 100,000 or 200,000 additional endpoints, Pulse was built for that and maintains visibility through the lightweight agents. And I touched a little bit before on, these kind of Delta processes. So you're not eating up a lot of the store's bandwidth with constantly having to chug logs through it. It's really understanding what's the new data, what the deltas are within the files, and only publishing that out, the new information for you to read. And of course it keeps the history, but it's not all happening at one time over one pipe, and it's real time. So I think that's it because we're pretty much right up on time here. I'm going to switch to my last slide, where we talk about next session. So again, thank you very much to our customers, our partners, our internal teams, our external teams for making this very successful today. And we have, really great attendance. Would love to have you all on a one-on-one or back for the next session, which is in December 5th. And in that topic, we're targeting targeted observations and the real-time monitoring capabilities. Again, will be very much like this, a PowerPoint that we talk through, real-life demo, so you folks can see what happens within the tool, and really just again, thanks. We're very happy to have you all here. Please feel free to reach out, and we will see you next time on December 5th, but hopefully before. Happy Friday, everybody, and thanks again.